Professor Eva Mörk, can you summarize what this year's prizes, awards are given for?
I'd be happy to do that. So this prize is for answering big questions about causality when it's not possible to conduct randomized experiments, which is the case often in social sciences. So David Card has, in a number of early contributions in the early 90s, shown that it's possible to answer big important questions in labor economics using natural experiments. And Joshua Angrist and Guido Imbens had together explained exactly what conclusions we can draw about causality, and thereby also developed a framework that has been widely adopted by researchers when working with real-world data.
Do you have any examples of what questions were the important ones?
Yes, so for example, if we go back to the early 1990s, people, or mostly economists, believed that high minimum wages led to lower employment, that there were large employment and wage falls when there were large immigration, and that school resources did not really matter for pupils' outcomes. So these were three things that we thought were true. But thanks to the work by David Card, we know now that the answers were simply different than the ones we thought early on.
What were the answers?
So minimum wages, surprisingly, did not seem to lead to an increase or a fall in employment. This was true in the initial study by David Card and his late colleague Alan Kruger, but it had also been shown to be true also in later work, both in Europe and in the US. And when it comes to migration, it's typically the case that the native workers, they can rather gain from immigration, whereas it is those that immigrated earlier that are the ones who lose economically. And school resources are important for pupils' future earnings, especially for pupils from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Well, what kind of resources do you mean in schools?
So it can be like a number of teachers, school books, school lunches, etc. So different things that we invest to make school quality higher.
And how would you explain this award to a child, like 10 years old?
So I would say, research is a bit like being a detective. You have these big, important questions that you want to answer. And then you have to figure out a way to answer the question. In this way, you have to figure out a way where some people that look very similar, just by chance, are treated differently. And by doing that, you can actually see what this intervention or this treatment that happens to these people, the effect of that. So that is like a detective work. I would say that's the main takeaway from a 10-year-old.
And this award is especially about a kind of experiments, natural experiments.
Exactly.
You called it unintended.
Exactly, something that just happened. It was not, many experiments when we conduct, the researcher sits in his office, thinks, how should I do this? Let's conduct this experiment. In this case, something has already happened. So there was a policy rule, or there happened something, there came a pandemic, something happened that just meant that there was an experiment without the researcher being involved.
And the new thing about those natural experiments, what was it?
So the thing is that, this is something that's been around for a long time. The idea that sometimes something can be used. But what was really new here was that David Card, he showed that for really, really big questions, things where we thought we will never be able to say anything about the causal effect here, we can actually do that thanks to these natural experiments.
And this was done in the 90s?
Yes, so there was a revolution, one could say, in the early 1990s, where a number of key studies came using natural experiments by David Card. Joshua Angrist were also involved, and the late Alan Kruger. And then a couple of years later, in the mid-90s, Guido Imbens and Joshua Angrist started to think about, okay, so what's going on? What can we really say? There was a big revolution. Everyone was super enthusiastic. And then one started to think, okay, so is this a good thing? Can we really say something about this? And then Angrist and Imbens showed that, yes, we can indeed do that. And this is exactly what we can say.
So how come this work is recognized now?
It's always the case that it takes, so you have a big intervention or big discovery, but then you need to see, does this hold up against time? Is this something that was just people were super enthusiastic over in the beginning, or this is something we can actually learn about. So, I mean, I think that's the case with all the economic prizes and all the other Nobel prizes as well, that the things that are awarded are not the things that happened this year, but a couple of years ago, when we have time to really understand and evaluate these innovations clearly.
Can you tell us something about the laureates? Did they work together? Or?
Yes, so as Guido Inben said here at the press conference, Joshua Angrist was actually his best man at the wedding, and Joshua Angrist was also his supervisor. So I mean, there are very close interaction between these people.
And then you have the third laureate?
David Card. So he hasn't worked together with them, but they are all, I mean, working quite closely. And one of the reactions when we talked to Professor Inbens this morning was that he was so thrilled that he got it together with these two others, that he said, my close friends, this makes it even better. So.
And what did the other two say?
So we never managed to get hold of Joshua Angrist. So, but David Card was also super happy. He was more, you know, Canadian, being a bit calm in the beginning, but yeah, he was also super happy about sharing it with these two guys.
And my last question would be, what makes you enthusiastic about this prize?
So what makes, I think it's totally revolutionized the way we do empirical work. When I compare with when I was a PhD student a long time ago, I mean, the kind of methods we learned, the kind of questions we could answer about causality, I mean, it was really building on a lot of theoretical assumptions that we kind of knew were not really true. But now we can do that. We can go out and answer these super interesting, relevant questions about so many different things, about how early interventions in children's life affect the later outcomes, how different tax and benefit systems affect a lot of things. So we can give so much better policy advices thanks to this work.
Thank you very much, Eva Mörk, for talking to us. Thanks.